When it comes to Avalanche as a project, there's been a reminder, and it's not even according to me, or by me, I should say. It's actually by Grayscale. And yes, you heard that right. I'm talking about Grayscale, literally one of the most massive things out there. They recently made a post saying how every asset has its narrative. They listed a bunch of projects, but guess what? They mentioned Avalanche. They noted Avalanche for its mass customization in terms of its narrative. I'll get into that in today's video, even though nothing I say is financial advice. I'm not telling anyone to do anything, and this is just from my perspective. Now, if we take a look at it, Grayscale mentioning this, I think does showcase that indeed they view Avalanche as a layer one blockchain, more specifically as something that does have maybe this capability for mass customization. The reason why is because they probably did their research. They usually have a team that does this type of stuff. Not to mention, we take a look at Grayscale's spot Avalanche ETF in the US. So in theory, Grayscale must view Avalanche to a certain extent in order for not only to bother even with a Avalanche ETF in the first place, but also, second of all, to even bother making a post and even mentioning Avalanche at a time like this. Anyways, keep in mind, AVAX, which is Avalanche's native token, is sitting at below $7. The tension is not that good as of right now. But that reminder by Grayscale was more so geared towards the fundamentals. So let's take this into consideration. Some enterprises out there, they're sometimes not too focused when it comes to the price. Sometimes their focus is the fundamentals, the use case. How can that actually benefit their business? And if something like Avalanche is noted for its mass customization, it only means that it's very versatile, in my opinion. Maybe for the case of AI, maybe for other market sectors out there, supply chain management. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. That's the thing. So this is pretty impressive. Now, people like to say, well, Avalanche, it doesn't have a good use case. Well, again, if something like Grayscale notes this for having this sort of key narrative, right, of being this layer one blockchain that has the capabilities for mass customization, it showcases that the use case is actually quite diverse, in my opinion. We're talking about a project here when it comes to Avalanche that currently has 3 spot Avalanche ETFs in the US. I'm not joking. Let's take a look at Grayscale's Avalanche ETF in the US. That's on NASDAQ. Take a look at, let's say, VanEck spot Avalanche ETF, which is in the US. That's also on NASDAQ. Now we take a look at the third one, which is Bitwise's spot Avalanche ETF. That's on the New York Stock Exchange. Keep in mind, these 3 ETFs all launched in 2026. So when people like to say, well, 2026 was such a bad year when it comes to this, well, okay, maybe in terms of the price charts, but that could also be said for Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and all this. So, okay, yeah, this is doing bad, but also the whole market isn't doing the best. But if we ignore that, in terms of fundamentals, it's improved so much this year. And I think the attention is actually better because if we take a look at Grayscale, VanEck, Bitwise, the fact that they even bothered with an Avalanche ETF anyways, that's quite legendary. And that was all again launched this year. So let's just let that sink in. When it comes to Avalanche, at least in my opinion, it ticks kind of the boxes of what a layer one blockchain should be. A layer one blockchain, people usually kind of break it down to 3 different categories. They want something that's fast, they want something that's scalable, and they want something with gas fees, which are not a problem. Now, if we break it down a little bit, right, we take a look at Avalanche. In terms of its speed, it's very amazing. Is it the fastest out there? Arguably, people might say no, but it's quite fast. Now, if we take a look at its scalability, that's pretty impressive, some people would like to say. Now, the third and a quite crucial category is the gas fees, right? Because no one likes high gas fees. For what? But if we take a look at Avalanche, not only are the gas fees not that much to begin with, but supposedly 100% of the gas fees when it comes to this are burned. Not 10%, not 20, not 30. I'm talking about 100%. That's quite legendary. I mean, other projects out there, they're like, okay, 5%, that's it. Be happy or who cares? Sometimes they're like that, right? We see that often. But when it comes to Avalanche, 100%. Now, people like to say, but the gas fees are not even that much to begin with. Like, why does it even matter whether or not this, let's say, has 100% of the gas fees being burned or not? There's not that much to burn anyways. But again, at least the mechanism is there, and the small amount of gas fees that are burned anyways, that's going to add up eventually moving forward. It may not matter in the immediate sense, but if we're talking about over years, that could matter a lot. Especially if, let's say, Avalanche has better adoption moving forward. If, let's say, the market were to recover, again, that could matter later. And keep in mind, AVAX, in terms of its maximum supply, it's not infinity. Like, it literally has a maximum supply. If we take a look at Solana, right? We take a look at, for instance, Dogecoin. They don't have a set maximum supply, keep in mind. Their maximum supply is literally infinity because there is no limit to it. AVAX, it already has a maximum supply, but then at the same time, literally 100% of the gas fees when it comes to Avalanche are burned. So I guess that's kind of like locking it down in two different categories. There's already a maximum supply, but then there's even a deflationary measure to kind of even bring it down a little bit further in terms of the supply. So we gotta just let that sink in. Now, when it comes to this, people like to say, well, people forgot about it. Well, really? You know, this has around 180,000 holders. Sure, it's not like 500,000 or a million, but around 180,000 holders? That's quite impressive, at least in my perspective. So I'm seeing all of this when it comes to Avalanche. Would I complain? I mean, okay, the price charts are low, but that could be said for a bunch of other projects out there. And if anything, low prices, some people don't necessarily find it to be a bad thing. I mean, some people actually do like it, right? Now, I'm personally a fan of the quote unquote dip. I'm not saying everyone is, I can't speak on anyone's behalf, but that's just the way to take a look at it. Let's take a look at AVAX, let's say back in December of 2024, around $50. Again, we're around 7 times lower than that. Now, if we take a look at it, let's just not go back that far. Let's just take a look at September 2025, around $30. So guess what? We're over 4 times lower than that currently. Like over 4 times lower than September of last year. September of 2025 was not such a good time for altcoins. It's not like altcoins were popping at that time. That wasn't really the case. That was considered a quite bad baseline when it comes to AVAX to begin with. But yet, we're over 4 times lower than that. So, I'm not going to complain. Personally, I wouldn't because I don't mind the dip. Now, I'm not telling anyone to do anything, but personally, I am just dollar cost averaging once a month. That's really about it. I don't want to do any more than that, but that way I keep it like a marathon sort of vibe, right? I don't treat this like a sprint. I'm treating this like a long-term thing. I don't know when the market could recover. There's no way I would be able to know that. Even if I put up a price chart, the market's not going to care. Like, okay, let's say I pulled up a price chart, drew some random triangles. The market's not going to care. They're not going to care about what I have to draw there. I could draw a falling wedge pattern and all this. It's not going to care. The market's going to do whatever it wants to do. But I can only control myself. Now, I don't have to believe in this, but I voluntarily want to because I like Avalanche as a layer 1 blockchain. Now, if we take a look at it, again, if AVAX could just go back to September 2025 levels, it would feel like an altcoin season to me, actually. Just because, again, we're over 4 times lower than that. And then also on top of that, if we take a look at it, as of right now, AVAX is literally back at 2021 levels. And I'm talking about early 2021 levels. But we're seeing it in 2026. Yeah, again, I'm not going to complain about that, but even besides that, if Grayscale makes a reminder, basically, saying how every asset has its narrative, and amongst, some of these real deal projects that they mention, like, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and all this, and then yet they mention Avalanche there as well, and noting it for its mass customization, I think that's so impressive. Keep in mind, the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust currently has around 130,000 Bitcoin. So this is something that's pretty massive. And the fact that they even mentioned this about Avalanche, wow, I just thought it was a pretty impressive sort of reminder. But you know what? I'll wait and see what happens. If there's any more updates, I'll be sure to make them. But I just want to say thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a very fantastic, wonderful, and amazing day. It's Lee the Captain. I'm on peace. Bye.